Hi Lala. So what I want you to do is go grab a pencil and paper if you haven't already, because there'll be certain points where I ask you to stop the video and do what I'm asking you to do, and it's very important that you follow through. So we're going to be discussing calculus in greater detail, but this is some of the stuff I wanted you to do on your own, for which I don't have to be present because it's simple and you can practice this, and then we can dive into calculus later. But you do remember from your O-level math what functions are. So function is basically anything that describes the relationship between two variables. So let's look at this function right here. This is telling me the relationship of variable y with respect to variable x. Now, if you remember from your O-level math, let's talk about this particular function. So you will understand the other functions as well. So if you remember from your O-level math, and I'm diving right into this because I'm sure you're familiar with this, that the equation of a straight line is y is equal to mx plus c, where m is the gradient of the line and c is the y-intercept, or basically wherever the line cuts the y-axis. So let's go into a bit of graphical analysis to see what this means for us. So if you remember from your O-level math, what the fudge are you doing, man? Anyhow, if you remember from your O-level math, your m is equal to y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. Okay, so yeah, so this is your line. Let's say you remember what a line is, right? It's basically anything that's connecting 2 points. So my 2 points are A and B, and so this is my line. This is my y-axis, this is my x-axis. So you remember you have to write your x-coordinates first. So at point A, x-coordinate is, let's say, 10. So this is x1. At the same point where I find my x-coordinate, my x1 basically, you draw a dotted line and you see what your y1 is. Let's say my y1 at this point is also 10. So that's 10, 10, right? Now look what points you have at B. At point B, my x1 is, let's say, 5. So I'm going to write coordinates for point B here. So B is 5. Again, you write your x-coordinate first. And at the same point, you see what your y-coordinate is. Let's say my y-coordinate is 8 at this point. So you write 8. That's your y1. So you have your point coordinate A, coordinate B. So since you have these 2 points on the line, you can now find your gradient. So if you remember more clearly from your level math, your gradient is basically your rise, which is basically how much your y has changed. So this is y1 minus your y2. So this part right here. So your change in y, which is y1 minus y2, divided by your change in x. Let's take a darker color for this one. Your change in x. So your change in x, which is basically how much your x has changed from the same points that y has changed. So that is basically your x1 minus your x2. So this is your change in x. So your gradient is basically your rise over your run. And I'm sorry if this is getting messy for you, but I hope you understand. If you don't, we can always repeat this. So what will be the value of my gradient at this point? So my rise is basically my change in y, which is this thing here, which is 10 minus 8. So this is 10 minus 8 over my change in x, which is basically these 2 points here, which is 10 minus 5. 10 minus 5. So I'm going to get 2 by 5. This is my gradient of the line. So since your line is not cutting anywhere on the y-axis, but let's suppose for the purpose of this illustration, it's cutting your y-axis, and this is just an example, let's say at 2. So this would be my y-intercept C. So my equation of line would then become y is equal to mx plus c, which is 2 by 5, my gradient right here, x, plus my y-intercept, which is 2, plus 2. If you didn't understand this because it's too messy, I apologize once again, but we'll run through some examples so you'll get it better. But basically, you do remember that your equation of your line is, where's my mouse? But you do remember your equation of your line is y is equal to mx plus c, where m is your gradient that you find out through this formula, and your formula basically states the change in y, which is your rise, over the change in x, which is your run. So you basically subtract both the y values and you divide it by both the x values, and you'll get your gradient, which we found over here, which was 2 by 5. You multiply this value by x, which is any variable x, plus your y-intercept. Initially we didn't have a y-intercept, but let's say your line was looking like this originally speaking, and cut the y-axis at 2, then your y-intercept would be 2. Otherwise, in this case, in this particular example, your y-intercept is equal to 0, so your line would have only been 2 by 5x. But just to explain to you how C looks like, it's basically where your line cuts the y-axis, and so your C is equal to 2, and this is your complete equation. Now let's go back to this equation. So basically in this equation your gradient is 4, and the way he calculated his gradient was like he saw what his value of y is over here, whatever that is, because this is not marked clearly so I don't know, but let's say it's 30. So it's 30 minus whatever his value of y was over here, which is minus 10. So this is 30 minus 10, which becomes read it 30 minus 10. As you remember, I'm only following the formula y1 minus y2, but in this case this minus is this minus, and this minus is something that already comes with the y coordinate, because as you can see this y coordinate is minus 10. And then if you go to your x1 minus x2, then you will see where y is 30. At this point where y is 30, you can see that your x is equal to 6. So this would be 6, and ye wala minus formula ka minus, and let's see where your y is minus 10. Where your y is minus 10, your x is actually equal to minus 4. So I'm going to write this value as it is, minus 4, minus 4. So when you solve this, you know that becomes 30 plus 10, which is equal to 40 over 6 plus 10, which is equal to 10. So your 0, 0 gets cancelled, so your slope is equal to 4, which is exactly what he got. So your slope is equal to 4, and you saw how we got that slope right here. Your slope is equal to 4, and this is plus 3 because your y-axis is being cut at 3. So this is how he derives this line right here. Now before we move on, there's this particular, let's see how much time I have on recording. 9 minutes. Okay, honey, I'm going to pause this because this software only allows me to record for 10 minutes, and I'll send you another video and we'll move forward the points there.